Everyone expected a routine hearing that morning. Lawyers prepared their notes, reporters adjusted their cameras, and the judge settled into his seat with quiet authority. But everything changed the moment a trembling 3-year-old girl walked into the courtroom. Holding the paw of a police dog, the dog, a highly trained German shepherd named Thor, stayed glued to her side, alert, tense, eyes tracking every movement in the room. No one understood why he refused to leave her. Then the judge asked her a simple question. The girl didn't speak. Instead, she tapped her fingers softly on the wooden table, once, twice, pause, twice again. Thor reacted instantly. His ears shot up, his stance tightened, and he stared directly at the defendant. The judge froze. Lawyers whispered. The entire courtroom went silent, because that pattern was a secret distress signal known only to K9 handlers, and the little girl had just used it. Before we start, make sure to hit like, share, and subscribe. And really, I'm curious, where are you watching from? Drop your country name in the comments. I love seeing how far our stories travel. The courtroom was unusually crowded that morning. Rows packed with reporters, officers, attorneys, and curious spectators. The case had drawn attention for weeks, and everyone waited for the mysterious, final witness the prosecutor claimed would change everything. The judge straightened his glasses, tapping his pen impatiently. "Bring in the witness," he ordered, but when the side door opened, the entire room gasped that a tiny 3-year-old girl stepped inside, her little hands trembling as she clutched the paw of a German shepherd twice her size. The dog, Thor, a decorated police K9, walked beside her with slow, deliberate steps, his eyes alert and scanning every corner of the room. The bailiff frowned. "Is this a joke?" he whispered to a colleague. The girl was guided to the witness seat, but Thor refused to stay behind the railing. He pushed forward, planting himself at her side like a living shield. No command could move him. The judge raised an eyebrow. "This is our witness." The prosecutor nodded nervously. "Your Honor, the child is the only surviving eyewitness." A murmur rippled across the courtroom. The girl sat silently, her bottom lip quivering, a single tear trailing down her cheek. She didn't speak. She didn't lift her head. Thor nudged her gently, as if telling her she wasn't alone, that no one knew it yet. But everything in that courtroom was about to change. The judge cleared his throat, trying to regain order. "Let's proceed," he said firmly. But Thor had other plans. The moment the defendant shifted in his seat, Thor's ears shot up. His muscles tightened. A low growl rolled from his throat. Deep, warning, unmistakably hostile. The sound echoed through the courtroom, freezing everyone in place. The defense attorney held up his hands. "Control that animal." But the K9 handler shook his head, pale with disbelief. Thor never growls without reason. Not once in his entire service. The little girl's fingers curled into Thor's fur, her breathing quickening. She wasn't just frightened, she was terrified of something. Or someone. Thor sensed it instantly, leaning against her chair protectively. The defendant shifted again, adjusting his tie. Thor barked sharply, lunging a single step forward. Gasps erupted across the room. Reporters scrambled to capture the moment. Someone whispered, "Does he recognize him? Did something happen?" The judge pounded his gavel. "Order, order." But Thor didn't stop staring. Not at the judge, not at the attorneys, only at the defendant. The prosecutor stepped beside the girl, voice soft. "Sweetheart, is everything okay?" She didn't answer. Her eyes stayed fixed downward, tears slipping silently onto the wooden desk. Thor nudged her hand, whining. The handler swallowed hard. "Your Honor." He's reacting like he's protecting her from something. The judge's expression shifted, from annoyance to concern. Something was wrong, and Thor knew exactly what it was. Before anyone else did, the judge leaned forward, lowering his voice. "Young lady, can you tell us your name?" The little girl's lips trembled. She opened her mouth, but nothing came out. Not a word. Her small fingers shook as she clung tighter to Thor's fur. The prosecutor tried again, gentler this time. "Sweetheart, you're safe here. Thor is with you." Still silence. Then, without warning, the little girl lifted her hand and tapped her fingertips softly against the wooden desk. Once. Twice. A pause. Then twice again. To most people, it sounded like nervous fidgeting. But Thor reacted instantly. His ears snapped upright. His body stiffened. He slowly turned his head toward the defendant. eyes narrowing with the kind of focus only a trained K9 could hold. A muffled gasp spread through the courtroom. The K9 handler's face went pale. "Judge, that rhythm. Those taps." The judge frowned. "What about them?" "That's a distress code," the handler whispered. "A silent signal used by K9 officers when they can't speak. Only a trained dog would respond to it." The courtroom erupted in whispers. The defense attorney shot up. "Impossible. She's a child. She couldn't know that." But the girl tapped the pattern again, slightly faster this time, tears streaming down her cheeks. Thor growled low, deeper than before, and stepped in front of her, positioning himself between the girl and the defendant like a soldier protecting his partner. The judge lifted a trembling hand. "Everyone, remain still," because suddenly, this wasn't just a frightened child. This was a child communicating in the only language she trusted. A secret signal meant to expose the truth. For a long moment, no one spoke. The judge's hand hovered in the air, frozen mid-gesture. The prosecutor stared at the little girl as if seeing her for the first time. And Thor's growl vibrated through the courtroom floor, steady and unrelenting. The judge softened his tone. "Sweetheart, why did you use that signal? Who taught you that?" The little girl's chin quivered. She wiped her tears with the back of her hand, then whispered, barely audible, "Daddy." The courtroom fell silent. The prosecutor leaned closer. "Your father. He was a K9 officer, wasn't he?" She nodded slowly. "Thor was his dog." Gasps rippled through the courtroom. Her voice wavered as she continued. "Daddy, he wanted to talk to that man." She pointed at the defendant. "He told him to stop hurting people." But, Thor whined and nudged her arm, encouraging her. "He didn't come back," she whispered. "I heard yelling. Thor tried to protect him, but Daddy got hurt. Thor brought me to him. He tried to wake him up, but he wouldn't." Her small hands shook violently. "I was scared. Thor took me away. Daddy told me, if something bad happened, to use the signal." The judge's eyes softened with heartbreak. "Sweetheart, are you saying the defendant was there when your father?" The girl nodded, tears streaming. "Thor remembers. He saw everything." Thor stepped forward, staring directly at the defendant with a cold, unwavering intensity. For the first time, the defendant looked away, and in that moment, everyone in the courtroom understood the little girl wasn't just a witness. She was the key to a truth only she and Thor survived to tell. The judge exhaled shakily, gripping the bench. "We need clarity," he murmured. "Handler, step forward." Thor's former handler approached cautiously, eyes flicking between the dog and the trembling child. "Your Honor." Thor was trained to respond to danger cues. If the girl truly knows those signals, then Thor's reactions won't be random. The courtroom leaned in as the handler knelt beside the girl. "Sweetheart, can you show us the signal again?" She nodded. "Once. Twice." Pause. "Twice again." Thor immediately stepped forward and growled at the defendant. "Try another." The handler urged gently. She tapped a different pattern, one meant to indicate safety. Thor instantly stopped growling, sat down, and pressed his head into her lap. The defendant shifted uneasily. Then the handler pointed to a third code on his notepad. "Do you remember this one?" The girl hesitated, then tapped the sequence with slow, shaky precision. Thor rose, teeth baring, and pointed his nose directly at the defendant. The trained signal for the identified threat. The courtroom erupted. Reporters stood. Lawyers froze. Even the judge looked shaken. The defense attorney stammered. "That doesn't prove anything." But Thor wasn't done. The girl tapped one final pattern. Thor lunged, not to attack, but to stand between the defendant and the door. The message was unmistakable. He knew. She knew. And now, everyone else did too. The courtroom sat in absolute silence. Every eye fixed on Thor standing guard at the doorway, blocking the defendant's escape. The judge slowly rose from his seat, his voice trembling with a mixture of shock and gravity. "Bailiff," he said quietly, "take the defendant into custody for immediate interrogation." But before the bailiff could move, the defendant snapped. "This is insane," he shouted, backing into the corner. "You're all believing a dog and a traumatized kid? She doesn't know what she saw." Thor barked so loudly the walls vibrated. The little girl flinched, then bravely stood from the witness chair. "I remember," she whispered. "Daddy told Thor to protect me." And he did. The defendant's face cracked. Sweat beaded on his forehead. His voice shook. "Fine. I was there. But it wasn't supposed to go that way. Your father pushed me. I didn't mean to. His words died as the courtroom gasped. The confession hung in the air like a storm cloud. Officers rushed forward, handcuffing him as he protested weakly. The judge lowered his head, shaken. This court owes its truth, he declared, to the courage of a child and the loyalty of a remarkable K9. The girl knelt beside Thor, wrapping her tiny arms around his neck. You saved me again, she whispered. Thor closed his eyes, resting his head against her.